All right, I want to talk to the woman who's been questioning herself lately, the one who's been showing up, loving hard, giving, nurturing, hoping, but still ends up wondering why he pulled away, why he didn't choose her, why he ghosted, why it fizzled out when it felt like something real. You were all in, and now you're left wondering, oh, what did I do wrong? Now, first things first, and stop blaming yourself. Take a deep breath with me. Let's be clear, attraction isn't about bending into a pretzel to make someone stay. You're not here to audition for someone's love. But here's the truth, and I've said this in every seminar, every session, every book I've written. People respond to standards, not sacrifice. Let me say that again because it's important. People don't stay for your sacrifice. They stay for your standards. You see, most women think the way to a man's heart is to accommodate, to please, to be low maintenance. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to scare him off. I don't want him to think I'm needy. But here's the irony. You're not too much because you have needs. You're too much for the wrong person. Let me tell you what high-value women do. And I'm talking about the women who don't get walked away from. Not because they trap someone, because they manipulate, but because their very energy makes a man want to stay. Their presence makes it unthinkable for someone to leave. And it all begins with how they speak. Now, when I say how they speak, I don't mean they've got a sexy accent, or they talk in a certain pitch, or they sound like they stepped out of a rom-com. No. I mean, they communicate in a way that says, I'm not here to perform. I'm not here to chase. I'm not here to convince you I'm worthy. I already know I am. High-value women speak with authority over their emotions. They don't outsource their self-worth to someone else's attention. They don't wait for someone to validate them. And here's the part no one talks about. They don't lose their voice when they're afraid to lose the person. Let that sink in. You know how many people stop speaking their truth the moment they start liking someone? You start to fall for him, and suddenly, you're terrified to bring up anything that might rock the boat. So you hold back when something hurts you. You pretend you're okay with something that actually made you feel small. You keep your mouth shut when he cancels last minute. Even though you were really looking forward to seeing him, you minimize your needs. You swallow your standards. You rationalize. It's just early. I don't want to scare him off. And in doing that, in the very act of staying silent, you abandon the most magnetic part of you, your truth. And that's where the shift happens. Because high-value women, and I've coached thousands, they don't talk just to be liked. They speak to be heard. They know that every word is a declaration of how they want to be treated. You want to know how a high-value woman speaks so a man can't walk away. She speaks from her center, not from her wounds, not from her fear, not from her ego. She says what she feels without apology, but with grace. She knows the difference between reacting and responding. If he pulls away, she doesn't chase. She simply names the distance. I've felt a shift in your energy. Is everything okay? She's not needy. She's aware. She's not demanding. She's direct. She's not manipulative. She's mature. And let me tell you something, that kind of emotional maturity, that's rare. And men, real men, don't walk away from rare. They walk away from confusion, from drama, from games, from people who don't know what they want, or worse, know what they want but won't say it. The women who are the hardest to leave aren't the ones who give everything. They're the ones who give themselves fully, but never at the expense of their peace. Let me give you a practical example. You're dating someone. It's going well, but suddenly he starts texting less. Plans start slipping. You feel the shift. Now the low value move. You pretend you don't notice. You start double texting. You get anxious. You ask your friends to analyze his messages. You panic. The high value move. You pause. You regulate. You breathe. You don't respond from a place of fear. You respond from truth. You might say, I really enjoy spending time with you. But I felt a shift in how often we connect. I value consistency in communication. If you're feeling differently, that's okay, but I'd rather know where we stand than guess. Boom. No blame, no drama, just clarity. Do you know how rare that is? A, you don't need a man to stay. You're giving him the option to meet you where you are. And when a man sees that, when he realizes that you can be honest without being hostile, clear without being cold, vulnerable without being desperate, it changes everything. Because the energy of a woman who knows who she is, who can express her needs without demanding someone else meet them, who sees herself as the prize, without needing to prove it, that's irresistible. That's the kind of energy that doesn't chase, it attracts. It's the kind of voice that echoes in a man's head when he's away. That makes him miss her not because she disappeared, but because she stood tall in a world that tells women to shrink. Now look, I know it's not always easy. I'm not here to tell you to just be confident and everything will magically work out. This takes work. It takes self-reflection. It takes knowing your own value so deeply that you don't settle for breadcrumbs. But it also takes practice. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly be fluent in speaking your needs with perfect poise. That's okay. What matters is that you start. Start by being honest with yourself first. What do you want? What do you need? What are your boundaries? And then start expressing them in small ways. Let me say something I've said 100 times on stage. Your boundaries are not ultimatums. They're invitations. An invitation for someone to rise. To meet you in your truth, to grow alongside you. And when someone can't or won't, you don't collapse. You don't try to win them back. You don't twist yourself to fit their mold. You walk with grace, with dignity, with love for yourself. Because the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you set the tone in a relationship, that's your script. That's what teaches someone how to treat you. I've seen it 1,000 times. When a woman speaks from her value, not from her fear, she becomes unforgettable. She becomes the one that got away for everyone who couldn't rise. She becomes the one who stayed with the one who could. You want a man who stays. Speak like someone who could walk away. And not because you want to play games, but because you know your peace is too expensive to sell for temporary affection. You want a man who listens. Speak like your words matter, because they do. You want a man who commits. Speak as someone who won't wait around for someone to figure it out. And trust me on this, the man who's emotionally ready, who values growth, who's done with the shallow end of dating, he will see you, he will hear you, and he won't walk away, not because you made him stay, but because you made him feel something real. That's not magic, that's you operating from your power. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be sexier. You don't need to talk more, talk less. You just need to be honest, because real power doesn't need volume. It needs truth. And when you speak from that place, the place that knows your worth, that isn't afraid to be alone, that can hold love, but not beg for it. That's when everything changes. That's when the right man steps in and says, there's no way I'm walking away from this. And he won't, because you didn't chase love. You became it. Just like I've said on stage 100 times before, and I'll say again now, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So become the kind of woman that you wouldn't walk away from, and watch how he won't either. Because once you speak from your highest self, you don't have to shout to be heard, you don't have to perform to be seen. You don't have to beg to high value. Women don't speak from a place of needing validation. They speak from grounded self-worth. That means when they communicate, they're not trying to control how someone sees them or anxiously manage how someone might react. They're not tailoring every word to avoid conflict or to make sure he doesn't leave. They're rooted in a deep understanding that their truth is not only valid, it's necessary. They trust that what they feel matters, and they don't minimize it to keep someone comfortable. When a high-value woman speaks, there's a calm clarity to her words. She doesn't use guilt, games, or emotional manipulation to get what she wants. She simply names her experience. If something feels off, she addresses it. If she's hurt, she expresses it. But she does so with composure and integrity. There's no panic in her voice, no desperate undertone. Why? Because she knows she has options. She knows her value doesn't hinge on how one man responds. The power in her speech comes from the absence of fear. She's not afraid of silence, not afraid of the space truth might create. She's not afraid to lose someone who can't handle her standards. And that's exactly why her words carry weight. Because she's not speaking to get a reaction. She's speaking to stay in alignment with who she is. Men sense that. They sense when a woman isn't emotionally leaning on them for security. That kind of woman doesn't feel like pressure, she feels like peace. She feels like confidence. And when a man hears a woman who can express herself without losing herself, it's unforgettable. Not because she was loud or dramatic, but because she was real. She showed up as her whole self and didn't flinch. Boundaries are often misunderstood as walls or ultimatums, but in reality, they are invitations to engage in a deeper, more respectful kind of connection. A high-value woman doesn't set boundaries to control others. She sets them to protect her peace, her energy, and her emotional safety. She knows what she's available for, and more importantly, what she's not. When she communicates a boundary, it's not with anger or fear. It's with certainty and calm. There's no need to raise her voice, explain herself excessively, or try to convince someone why her standards matter. She simply states what she needs in order to feel respected and aligned. The beauty of this is that it gives people a choice. It's not, you better do this or I'll leave. This is what I need to feel safe and valued in this relationship. If you're in the same place, great. If not, I understand. That kind of clarity is powerful because it doesn't try to force a connection. It allows the other person to step up willingly or step out honestly. A woman who lives this way shows that her love is a privilege and not a prize to be won by someone doing the bare minimum. And the right man, when faced with that kind of woman, doesn't feel threatened by her standards. He feels inspired by them. He sees that she values herself enough not to beg, plead, or tolerate inconsistency. That kind of emotional leadership sets the tone for a deeper, healthier relationship. When boundaries are communicated with warmth, confidence, and consistency, they become a roadmap for connection, not rejection. They show the other person where safety and trust live and invite them to rise to that level. Not because they're forced to, but because they want to. Emotional maturity is one of the most powerful, yet underrated forms of attraction. It's not flashy or dramatic, it's steady, grounding, and rare. When a high-value woman communicates, she does so from a place of emotional regulation. She's not driven by impulse or reactivity. She feels deeply, yes, but she doesn't let those emotions hijack her ability to respond with clarity and intention. That's what makes her so magnetic. Her ability to express vulnerability without being emotionally chaotic. When something bothers her, she doesn't explode or retreat into passive-aggressive silence. She calmly articulates her experience. She might say, when you cancelled last minute, I felt disappointed. I value my time, and I was really looking forward to seeing you. No games, no accusations, just truth. Delivered with emotional intelligence. This kind of self-possession creates emotional safety. Men don't feel like they're walking on eggshells around her. She's not unpredictable or exhausting to be around. She's consistent. She brings a calm strength to the table that makes others want to open up, trust, and show up more honestly. That's incredibly attractive because the deeper truth is we're all tired of drama. We're drawn to people who make us feel at ease, who challenge us to grow, not through pressure, but through presence. And let's be clear, emotional maturity isn't about being perfect. It's about being self-aware. It's about pausing before reacting, choosing curiosity over defensiveness, and having the courage to speak even when it feels vulnerable. When a woman embodies that level of maturity, she's unforgettable, not because she demands attention, but because she commands respect. That kind of energy isn't easy to find. And when a man experiences it, it creates a bond he doesn't want to lose, not because he's afraid, but because he feels seen, safe, and inspired. You don't attract what you wish for, you attract what you are. That's why a high-value woman doesn't just sit around hoping for a man to finally see her worth. She becomes someone who already knows her worth. And that energy is impossible to ignore. She doesn't wait to be chosen. She lives like someone who's already chosen herself. That shift changes everything, not just in how others treat her, but in what she allows into her life. She shows up as someone who is whole, not someone looking to be completed. She doesn't seek love from a place of lack. She brings love from a place of abundance. Her confidence doesn't come from attention, it comes from alignment. Her standards aren't rigid rules, they're reflections of how she values her time, energy, and emotional well-being. And because she lives that way, the people around her either rise to meet her or quietly fall away. And she's okay with that. When you are peace, you stop tolerating chaos. When you are clarity, you stop engaging with confusion. When you are emotionally available, you stop chasing people who aren't. It becomes less about convincing someone to stay and more about protecting what you've built within yourself. This kind of self-awareness becomes magnetic. The right man doesn't just notice her, he respects her. He listens differently. He shows up consistently. Because he senses he's not dealing with someone who's auditioning for love. He's with someone who embodies it, and walking away from that kind of woman, it doesn't even cross his mind, because she's not just attractive, she's rare. And in a world full of noise, her energy feels like coming home. She didn't get there by accident. She got there by becoming everything she was asking for in someone else. And that's what made the right person stay. So if there's one thing I want you to walk away with, it's this: you don't need to do more to be worthy. You need to remember who you are. The way you speak, the way you set your boundaries, the way you carry your emotional presence, all of it tells the world and the man in front of you how you expect to be treated. And when you show up rooted in truth, anchored in self-respect, and unwilling to negotiate your peace for temporary connection, you become the woman no man wants to lose, not because you're chasing love, but because you are it. And when you move through the world like that, with grace, clarity, and quiet power, trust me, he won't walk away. He'll realize he's standing in front of something rare, and he'll do everything in his power to hold on.